Good evening from New York. I'm Chris Hayes. If there has been one constant across Donald Trump's 2 terms, it is this: his innate ability to find the worst possible sustainable equilibrium in this country at all times. In other words, he has this way of making things as bad as they could be without risking some, wholesale society-wide collapse or some kind of political catastrophe that shakes things up so dramatically that he might be run out of office. So here's an example. It's happening right now with the U.S. and Israeli war on Iran. Today, Trump took to social media to boast about a potential ceasefire deal between Israel and Lebanon. Quote, "I just had excellent conversations with the highly respected President Joseph Aoun of Lebanon and Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu of Israel. These 2 leaders have agreed that in order to achieve peace between their countries, they will formally begin a 10-day ceasefire at 5 p.m. Adding, quote, get this, ready for this one? It has been my honor to solve 9 wars across the world, and this will be my 10th. So let's get it done." So it seems like for now, there's a deal that Israel and Hezbollah say that they will honor, which is obviously a good thing. But there would be no need for a ceasefire if Trump had not started this war in the first place, had he not greenlighted it. So now he wants an attaboy for sort of, somewhat temporarily solving the problem he created. And just to be clear about the situation in Lebanon right now, it's awful. Israel decided to use the war on Iran as an opportunity to expand the fighting into that country. Over 2,000 people have been killed. At least 1 million more have been displaced. About 15% of the country is now occupied by Israel. And there is no indication at this moment that troops will leave even during the ceasefire. So the region is indisputably less stable than it was 3 months ago. And there's lots of people who've died. Everyone's going to be worse off, is worse off. And Donald Trump wants credit for leaving things worse than he found them. It's the exact same story with the larger war on Iran. After months of fighting, Trump finally managed to achieve a ceasefire for now with the help of Pakistan. But again, that's only after nearly 4,000 Iranians, not to mention hundreds of school children, and more than a dozen American service members died. The country is in a state of total instability. Many of the remaining moderating forces in Iranian politics have been killed. Many of those in power now are more hardline than their predecessors. And if you think I'm just saying that as a rhetorical feint, here's a concrete example. Do you remember the infamous Quds Force leader, Qasem Soleimani? That's the guy that Trump still boasts about assassinating in his first term. Well, Soleimani once actually resigned, ready, rather than work for the country's new national security chief. So that's where we're at. But after causing all that chaos, the death, the destruction, Trump says everything is just fine.
We have a very good relationship with Iran right now, as hard as it is to believe. And I think it's a combination of about 4 weeks of bombing and a very powerful blockade. The blockade is maybe more powerful than the bombing, if you want to know the truth. We're getting along very well with the new Iranian leaders. It really is a regime change. These are people that are a lot different than we were dealing with at the beginning. As you know, they're no longer around. They're no longer with us. But we have a very good relationship, and I think there's a very good chance we're going to make a deal.
I mean, of course, the reality is the Iranian regime could now be more emboldened to pursue a nuclear weapon than it was at the start of the year. I mean, certainly if you're Iranians, you got to think you need one, given what's happened. So even the administration's own post hoc rationale for starting the war may be undermined by the actual results on the ground. And yet, Trump is still talking about the situation as if he's totally succeeded in ending any possibility of Iran getting a nuclear weapon. It is part of his bizarre, truly bizarre, one-sided feud with Pope Leo.
So very important is that Iran does not have a nuclear weapon, and they've agreed to that. Iran's agreed to that, and they've agreed to it very powerfully. I have nothing against the Pope. His brother's MAGA all the way. I like his brother, Louis. I'm not fighting with him. The Pope made a statement. He says Iran can have a nuclear weapon. I say Iran cannot have a nuclear weapon.
That's, of course, not true at all. The Pope has called for the exact opposite thing many times, and we're going to have more on Trump's feud later in the show. But once upon a time, there actually was a deal to prevent Iran from getting a nuclear weapon. It was called the Joint Comprehensive Plan of Action, put together by the Obama administration, involving an international partnership and monitoring, right, that made sure that they were only enriching uranium to a certain amount. Donald Trump tore it up in his first term. Another way that he made things worse and then kind of demanded credit. But even without nuclear weapons, Iran now has more leverage on the world stage than ever, and that is because, unlike when this war started, remember, Iran now controls the Strait of Hormuz. It is an enormous pressure point for the global economy. Only a fraction, this is key, of the 130 or so ships that normally cross the strait daily are going through now. Gas prices are now topping $4 a gallon nationally. There is still no solution for the long-term oil shocks that energy experts say are coming. Europe says it's about 6 weeks away from running out of jet fuel. And again, Trump is like, I want credit for where things stand.
How much longer will Americans continue to see these high gas prices?
Well, they're not very high. If you look at what they were supposed to be in order to get rid of a nuclear weapon with the danger that entails. So the gas prices have come down very much over the last 3-4 days. I know, that's what ABC says. But the fact is that if you look at the stock market's up, everything's doing really well.
Don't worry about the gas prices. The stock market's up, which I imagine does matter a lot more in Mar-a-Lago. But here's the thing. Again, this is what keeps happening time and time again, right? If you imagine we were getting into this war like the absolute worst case scenario, which is genuinely something to worry about, the tail risk, a true global catastrophe. It's true. We have apparently avoided that so far, right? We're not seeing something like the oil shocks in the 1970s. Gas is more expensive than it's been in years. The fighting seems to be mostly contained for now, right? After thousands upon thousands were killed, but we haven't seen like tens of thousands of people being killed. There's been no nuclear catastrophe yet, no loose nukes. So the kind of catastrophe scenario, worst case, that hasn't happened. But also everything is worse off than it was in January. Again, Donald Trump has once again found the worst possible sustainable equilibrium. The worst possible sustainable equilibrium. That's what Donald Trump finds. It's just what he did with tariffs. Remember, he brought us to the kind of brink of economic disaster, tariffing the entire world. There were warnings Christmas would be canceled. There were no ships coming into the ports on the West Coast. And then what did he do? He walked things back just enough to make everything cost more without totally crashing the global economy. No big catastrophe, no empty Christmas shelves. But a year later, it's just everything costs more, and U.S. manufacturing has taken a hit, and tourists from Canada had cut off their trips to the U.S., severely hurting U.S. tourism. But we all just kind of beat on. Boats borne against the current ceaselessly into the worst possible sustainable equilibrium. Same thing during COVID, right? I mean, we did live this once before in the first term. Countless people died. I mean, more than 1 million over the course of the disease. Trump's recklessness caused a significant portion of needless death. He led our hospital system right up to the brink of absolute doom and calamity without things totally collapsing. This is what he does. Again, just short of the worst case scenario. And then he wants credit. Sends us on a course for the worst case scenario, catastrophe, nuclear war, enormous oil shock, and then a step away from it, I've solved it. He lights our national house on fire. He lets it burn for 50 minutes before he shows up with the fire hose, and then he demands a prize for putting out the blaze while the rest of us stand here in the smoldering ruins.